And on that note, moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker will discuss how businesses can harness the interactive tools today for growth and prepare for an immersive future. This session is brought to you in partnership with Meta. And as I mentioned before, this year MMA Impact goes phygital to bring to you the best of both worlds. Hence, our upcoming session is also a virtual one. Without any further ado, I'm humbled to welcome Mr. Arun Srinivas, Director and Head, Global Business Group, India Meta, for the session on Road to the Metaverse, Interaction and Immersion.
Yeah, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. Unfortunately, could not be there physically, so I guess it's the hybrid mode at play. Let me quickly segue from where Arvind left you guys with a sneak peek of, I guess, how the gaming universe looks at the metaverse. Just give me a second. Yeah. So what is the metaverse? Like what you would have figured out from the last session that Arvind ran as well. It's a set of virtual spaces where you can create and explore with other people who aren't in the same physical space as you. So I guess the prima facie, in some sense, we see this as the next generation of the internet, where we moved from, the whole visual and informative space in era one to more, interactive space in era two, where, things like social messaging, search, etc., started coming in, to really now an immersive space in era three, where, as you can see, whether you are there in your own form or in an avatar, you can actually be at places that you aren't. In theory, I'm saying, if we were doing this presentation on the metaverse, I would feel that I'm in the room with you guys. I'm not really being projected on some large screen, but I would feel that I'm actually standing there on stage making this presentation. So that's the fundamental, I guess, change that we're going to see, as we move to the metaverse. And what we've seen as conversations around this over the last 15, 18 months, obviously it's many things to many people, in terms of how people have interpreted the metaverse or all things metaverse. So on the finance side, obviously there are a lot of conversations around crypto, around blockchain, AI, obviously on the use cases, avatars, or Roblox on access points, or in the whole cultural context on saying that, will it be Ready Player One? What's the future going to look like? Or around innovation, where most of the platforms, et cetera, feature, or really about technology. But what we are seeing is there's obviously global interest in conversation around this space. And even again, if you look at conversations around the virtual economy, they've almost doubled. Conversation around VR headsets have grown by almost 50%. And obviously, needless to say, there are more than 7x conversations on the metaverse on the internet. So in some sense, I think metaverse is really not, one company's doing. I know we have represented ourselves as Meta, but because we are larger, we see our role as larger than just being Facebook, which was our earlier name, given that we have a suite of apps as well. But what we want to do is to really build the metaverse in conjunction with many partners across the ecosystem, many platforms, many companies and businesses, creators, and of course fundamentally it will be people like you and me who will also obviously take part in the metaverse. In some sense, some of those glimpses are already here. We see specks of that already in the augmented reality space, which is more mainstream than VR, given the headsets, etc. As we speak, are a barrier today. But I'm sure in the times to come with 5G technologies, and as we've seen the evolution of technology, be it on smartphones, etc., these things will become mainplace and mainstay. The metaverse fundamentally, I think, will have these three paradigms, built into this. As I said, the whole thing is about being immersive. So let's start with presence, actually. So like the example I gave, that you would feel that I was present in the room. I would feel I was present in the room. So if I'm talking in the stage, you will hear audio, in the metaverse as though it's coming from the stage to each of you in the room where you're sitting. Persistence and continuity is if we have a break, for example, let's say log off in the metaverse, I come back, it's almost I continue where I left off in that room. And there is a seamless sense of continuity with, like the gaming applications that Arvind spoke about, for example. Our take on interoperability is also not just about, places you visit in the metaverse. It's also about the kind of technology that you can log on to or stay on the metaverse. So seamlessly, for example, if I'm able to run this presentation from a Mac in the metaverse, tomorrow I should be able to do the same from my phone or any other device, be it on whichever technology or whichever platform it may come from. And these are renditions that you will start seeing, right, on the whole virtual experiences, and obviously whether it's on the mobile, desktop, or I guess futuristic devices. I think the metaverse will obviously seem far more immersive and also will be interoperable. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't think any company can build the metaverse together. The way we see it is it's the next generation of the internet, and we believe that there'll be more than 1 billion people on the metaverse by the end of this decade. So which means, literally the world today, for example, we have close to 3.5 billion people on our apps. And we expect 1 billion of them to actually inhabit the metaverse or, log on to the metaverse for something or the other. So therefore, as I mentioned earlier, all constituents, will have a stake in this, be it communities, be it people, be it creators, be it businesses, obviously developers and technology on one side and platforms and companies on the other side. Our role and what we are looking at to leapfrog into the metaverse is really we are working on these 3 technologies. The first one is MetaSpark, which is all around augmented reality. So how can we obviously bring to life at scale, while AR, etc., have existed as formats in the past, I don't think they've really come across at scale. But I think with the technologies of the future and speeds of the future, this will become mainstay, like I mentioned. The second one is Horizon Worlds, which is really our workplace attempt on really making virtual work, etc., more interesting, fun, and more immersive. So in theory, and all of us have gotten used to this, right? Over the last couple of years, we've all logged on from our homes, from our rooms, and we've been in the same virtual rooms together, but all of us were a box on the screen. So imagine tomorrow, in the metaverse, all of us inhabit, even for a meeting, let's say the same table in the same boardroom, for example, and really discuss what the future of the company is going to be. This will be possibly what the future looks like, and Meta is working on this. The third is Ray-Ban Stories, where we've already partnered with Ray-Ban, to at this point of time, the glasses are available for sale in certain markets. And it has technologies like, video recording, etc., which can be shared, uploaded. And I'm sure these will again evolve, into more AR and VR headsets over time. Obviously, while we do this, I think obviously the other side, the flip side is that safety, transparency, trust, etc., is still very paramount, as technologies obviously evolve. So how are we really putting people first, making sure people have a choice, and making sure that everything is safe, trustworthy, and transparent will still be a guiding, a cornerstone for everything that we do, as we innovate around the space. This is the Wendy Metaverse store. Let me run this example for you. The Wendyverse. So many businesses, as have already started, I guess, putting out what they could look like in the metaverse. So we have, in the retail side, we have brands like H&M. In the even Mondelez, for example, has done something in Latin America. So we have many businesses which are already starting to experiment. And obviously the whole assumption is that consumer persuasion will be at very high when you feel like you're in the premise shopping, rather than just adding to cart, through a small, rectangular button, when you buy this, let's say, off a platform. What can it mean for businesses? Obviously, we believe that metaverse will change the way, as I said, we work. So whether it's virtual meetings, virtual factory tours, virtual banking, KYCs, consumer immersion. So imagine for consumer, let's say all companies, obviously, eventually consumer companies have, work to do on understanding how things are working for the consumer. So immersions can be in the metaverse can be far more immersive and virtual. So this can actually start giving, more boost in productivity and speed. For example, I mean, like, let's say if you have to literally figure out how things are working in the market across 5 cities at the same time, or even 5 parts of the globe, you could do that tomorrow in the metaverse. We are seeing this already being adopted. Nestle Purina is the example here, where they educated and enabled sales employees through Oculus, on training them on how pet food is made, and what kind of pet food is good for what kind of pets, as well as making sure they understand the production process completely. Similarly, Hilton, for example, again embraced this, and what used to take 4 hours for new hires when they trained someone on how to make a room perfect after someone checks out, today takes 20 minutes through the metaverse, because in parallel they're able to literally get new trainees into unclean rooms and work through the process in parallel, and actually have dramatically crashed this and obviously boosted productivity. Gaming, I think I will not cover. Arvind has done a lot of justice to this. And similarly, I'm saying fitness is the other one, where we think virtual classes, again, many of us are used to, let's say, virtual yoga classes or fitness classes at home during the pandemic. This can again take a significant boost in terms of really reimagining the space. Auto cars, for example, let's say on the entire auto industry, test drives. And when you say test drives, there are companies that are already figuring out, saying, for example, not only will you feel that you're test driving a new, let's say, SUV, but you can actually change the setting to figure out what will it look on a rocky road, off-road, or a snowy road also in certain conditions, etc., so that you get that feel. And there, in fact, AI is now starting to be developed to understand haptic and signals on how consumers are responding to pressure as they go through these terrains. So I guess, technology will become far more, useful in many of these industries as well. Gaming is something that I think got covered, but you can imagine that it's right from card games to TT to boxing. Anything can be far more immersive. Apart from obviously things that people build on the metaverse as well. Entertainment. So imagine all of us have wanted to go for these, let's say your favorite pop star or musician's concert. You can do that tomorrow in the metaverse from the confines of your room. You'll feel that you're there. You could, in theory, buy virtual tickets. You could even be in the front rows, depending on how, I guess, these things are sold over time. And this also has an implication for businesses. So, for example, you may not need to eventually run 5 events and 10 events in Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Chennai, etc. Find a way where you run dealer meets or even your own sales team meets, etc., in one location, and where you make it far more immersive. So these are things that can be dramatically scaled, using the metaverse. Retail. So whether it's hotels, hospitality, or retail, people could actually get a virtual tour of the room, virtual visit to the store. This obviously encourages far more interest, in the brand and in the collection that they have, rather than just, again, static catalogs that we possibly get today. Online shopping, again, can be far more immersive and interactive. As you can see, in a 3D world, you can actually place the goods back, from the aisle that you picked it. Or, for example, in the Pringles example that you see from PNG on the right side, where they've used AR a lot to bring out the flavors that goes into the spicy packet of chips. So I think these will, again, connote what the propositions of the variant or the brand are, obviously will be far more persuasive for consumers to buy. At Meta, we believe we have a right or foundation to really build many of these technologies, because, as I mentioned, about half the globe is on our platforms today, through our communities. We have a lot of creators, as you know, across India and the globe, who put up reels, who put up, build small businesses, etc. Commerce, again, enabling both large and small businesses, I think, is something that we've always been doing. And the last one is we also, already have a presence in computing platforms thanks to our VR presence. We have, for example, while our VR headsets are available in the US, UK, ANZ, etc., we also run an Oculus store, where people buy apps to leverage the Oculus and use the Oculus for. I can tell you that over the last 3 years, we've sold more than $1 billion of apps on Oculus. So you can imagine how this is becoming more and more mainstay as technologies, start to permeate. Obviously, while these are things of the future, we believe that many of these things will be the segue or the gateway to the future. Be it like the whole Ray-Ban stories piece, be it messaging that becomes far more seamless works with businesses and leads and appointments and whatnot, or the whole AR VR piece, or even things like live shopping, which are becoming mainstay. We believe that these are the tools that exist today, which can be leveraged so that the path to the metaverse becomes seamless for most companies. Many businesses already embracing this. In fact, today, as per a study that we did with BCG, more than $300 billion is really the cost of friction, where people drop their journeys, don't fulfill their journeys from the time from discovery to purchase, meaning they add to cart and drop off. How can you obviously find a way to reduce friction here? So what we do at our platforms today is the first thing is discovery. We enable discovery of many brands, businesses, new products on our platforms. I'm sure all of us in this room would have bought something or seen something on the first time on Instagram. So whether it's new launches on one side, whether it's to amplify ingredients leveraging AR on the other side, or in the third example that you see where actually we had a try on with AR again, where more than 40 shades of lipstick you could try on how it looked on your face before you decided what to buy. So I think these are technologies that are already available. And as you can see the stats on the right side, more than 80% of people have discovered new brands on Facebook or Instagram, and 96% of those who discovered actually ended up buying. The second one is consideration. If you look through the funnel, so again, you have multiple examples here, from retail chains in Texas, to businesses in India as well, where they have leveraged external creators, as well as events in really trying to build consideration for their brands, leveraging technologies, interactive technologies like AR or polls, etc., which again bridges the gap, on friction. And the third, part of the funnel, as we all know, is purchase. So whether it is through try-ons like we spoke about on the Lakme case, or in this whole Michael Kors case here, where you can see the shades of the glasses change, or virtual test drives in the case of auto, or equally a long conversation, on clarification on sizing, on fits, like Flipkart leverage this or Myntra leverage this, or live shopping, for example, which is already there in India and abroad. We believe that these are again paths to purchase that can significantly reduce friction that exists today on the journey. And I think this is a pivotal moment. The reason, I want to end with this chart is that we are at a scale where even in India today, more than 1 in 2 adults already are on our platforms. More than 700 million people globally use AR. More than 100 million in India alone have used AR. And we have more than 200 million businesses on Meta. And we have close to, the volume of reels produced is more than 6 million on a daily basis in India across 10 languages, by the way. And this is a pivotal moment because this is the year where, advertising on digital platforms in India actually will overtake that of television. We've seen these trends in the US, for example, where digital today is more than 51% of all advertising. And obviously consumers across the world are the same, in terms of how they consume content or how they live lives. So clearly, this is a pivotal moment, where businesses need to obviously firstly bridge for today and also start bridging for tomorrow, leveraging the metaverse. So that's really what I want to close with. And in some sense, this is only the beginning of the journey, as we all embark on the metaverse over the next 5-10 years. Thank you very much.